Today's vodcast, V46, starts on slide 117 and goes through slide 135. It's all about problem solving. So these problem solving questions are just taking all of our knowledge from this chapters about ratios and rates and proportions and combining them all together with words. So there are a couple different things you can do to break down these word problems. First, you want to read them, and you always want to look for what the question's asking. So in this case, we have chocolates at a candy store that are $6 per dozen, and they're looking for how much one candy costs. So normally there are going to be two different labels that you're comparing. In this case, we have money and candy. And money is always going to be represented on the top of the numerator of the ratio, and candy is going to be on the bottom. So now we plug in the information that we have. $6 is the money for a dozen, which is 12 candies. And then we don't know how much it costs for one candy, but the one's going to go on the bottom, and the X is going to go on the top. So from here, we have a proportion. And like it says over here, we're using equivalent rates to set up proportions. And we solve it the same way that we learned how to solve proportions. You cross multiply using cross products. You get 6 times 1 equals 12x. And if you divide by 12 on both sides, you get x equals 0.5 or 50 cents per candy. And you always want to go back to make sure you answered the question. How much does one candy cost? 50 cents per candy, and you want to label it correctly. Let's look at another example. We have 3 books per student, and there are 570 students. Question asks, how many books are there? So we're comparing books and students. So all of our book information is going to go on the top, and students is going to go on the bottom. So we have 3 books per one student, and we want to know where the 570 goes. Since 570 is students, it's going to go on the bottom, like we see here, and X is on the top because we don't know how many books for that many students. We solve it by doing cross products. So 1x equals 3 times 570, and 3 times 570 is 1,710 books. They asked how many books, so we're labeling in books. Looking at another example, we have the ratio of boys to girls being 4 to 5. It says there are 135 people on a team. So how many girls are on the team? This one's tricky because there are 3 labels. We have boys, girls, and people. So we definitely want girls because that's what the question is asking. So we'll put that on the top. And then we're going to use people because that's the larger piece of information that we have. And we can also use this to our advantage to find people too. Because if there are 4 boys for every 5 girls, that's out of a total of 9 people. So 9 people, 4 of them are boys, 5 of them are girls. So in our original ratio, we're going to use the ratio of girls to people. So 5 girls to 9 people. And then the 135 is the people, so that goes on the bottom. And our X goes on top for girls. We cross multiply and get 5 times 135 equals 9x. 175 equals 9x. And if we divide by 9 on both sides, we get x equals 75 girls. Our question asks about girls. Our label is girls. For this one, we have cereal that costs $3.99 for 1 pound box. What is the price per ounce? Now we have cost, definitely, or price, but our question is about ounces, and we have information in pounds. but that's okay because we can convert that. So it'll be price per ounce. The price is $3.99 for 1 pound, which we know is 16 ounces. We can't put a 1 here because it's not asking us about pounds, it's asking us about ounces. And we want to know what's the price, so that goes on top as the X, per 1 ounce. If we cross multiply, we get $3.99 equals 16x. Divide by both sides, and we get this decimal, 0.249375. Now, the question asks about cost. I've never seen cost look like this, so we're going to round it to the nearest cent. So cent is the hundredths place, which would be where this 4 is. We look next door to decide if it rounds up or stays the same. The 9 will cause it to round up, so our answer is 25 cents per ounce. You're going to try this one on your own, but I got you started. This is a which one is the better buy problem, which you've seen already using unit rate. So we are looking for the best cost per ounce or the lowest cost per ounce. So you want to find for each of these the cost per 1 ounce, and whichever one is cheaper is the better buy. Please pause the video and try that on your own. You're completely on your own for slide 123. There are 4 girls for every 10 boys at the party. There are 56 girls at the party, and we want to know how many boys there are. Set up a proportion using equivalent rates and solve for how many boys there are. Now please skip to slide 129. This slide is something we've been telling you all year that you should do for every problem, but it's incredibly important in this case. So you want to make sure that your answer makes sense. And this is relatively in terms of decimals and fractions. So you want to reread the problem and make sure that your answer makes sense in the problem. If not, maybe it needs to be rounded, and that could be either up or staying the same, but it depends on the problem. So for example, and you please write this down because it's not on your slide. Money needs to be rounded to the nearest hundredth. We saw that in one of our previous examples. We got a long decimal answer, but that wasn't our answer. We needed to round to the nearest hundredth. Also, you can't have part of a person or an animal. So if you get that, you'll have to round to the nearest whole number. But you have to read the question to determine whether you have to round up or stay the same. And we'll show you an example of that. So let's take a look at this one. Cole earned a total of $11 by selling 8 cups of lemonade. How many cups of lemonade does Cole need to sell in order to earn all $15? And we know that the relationship is directly proportional. So we're going to compare money to lemonade. Money's going to go on the top. Lemonade's going to go on the bottom. We have $11 for 8 cups of lemonade and $15 for we're not sure how many cups of lemonade. We solve by doing cross products and end up down here with 11x equals 120. And when we divide, we get x equals 10.9. Now, there are a couple things that need to be thought about here. First of all, you can't have part of a cup of lemonade. So we know 10.9 is not the answer. But we have to think about, is 10 enough lemonade, or do we have to round to 11? And in this case, with rounding rules, you would round up to 11. But we can't always follow rounding rules. You have to look back at the problem. So let's do that. He wants to earn $15. So if he only sells 10 cups of lemonade, he's not going to earn that $15. However, if he sells 11, if he sells more than he has to, he's going to make the $15 and some more. So you have to look back at the problem and try to figure out how to round in these cases. So you're going to try this one on your own, but I'll get you started. Haley learned a total of 13 appetizer recipes over 3 weeks of culinary school. How many weeks does she need to complete to have learned 21 appetizers? So you're comparing appetizers to weeks, and first you need to solve for how many weeks to learn 21 appetizers. If you get your answer and it's a decimal, obviously, well, you could have part of a week, so you could figure it out that way. Or you could either round up or round down depending on what makes sense. Now, if you round down in this case, she's not going to learn all the appetizers. She wouldn't have learned them all by then. So if you round up, she'll have learned the full 21 appetizers. So keep that in mind and try this one on your own. From there, we're going to skip the rest of the problems. So this is the end of the vodcast, and please write this on your slide somewhere.